Mom ain't here. My mama was sacrificed.
My mom was sacrificed. Dr. Dre's son too.
Dr. Dre, his son.
This is coming from hip-hop legend Kanye West as he makes allegations against Hollywood, says no one can control him.
They can't control me. You get what I'm saying?
Kanye West has revealed that he believes the death of his mother, Donda West, was part of a large plan for Hollywood to control and traumatize him, saying she was sacrificed. In a new clip shared by The Shade Room, Ye revealed his theory while speaking to paparazzi from the passenger side of his car. He claimed he wasn't the only black billionaire to admit a sacrifice and that right now he is only in servitude to God.
I ain't taking no slice from nobody. It's God.
My mama ain't here, Kanye West stated. My mama was sacrificed. Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son. Dr. Dre, his son. Out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing.
My mom ain't here. My mama was sacrificed. You understand?
Yeah, we appreciate
Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son, right? Dr. Dre, his son. You're out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing.
It feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control and traumatize. They want to monetize and traumatize, he continued. Ye also brought up other black celebrities like Shaquille O'Neal, who have condemned his recent behavior as he asserted that he will not be controlled. They can't control me, he stated. They can control Shaq, they can control Charles Barkley, they can control LeBron James, they can control Jay-Z and Beyonce, but they can't control me. You see, it ain't no name I won't name. It's up.
They can control Shaq. They can control Charles Barkley. They can control LeBron James. They can control Jay-Z and Beyonce.
But not you, man.
But they can't control me. You see, it ain't no name I won't name.
This new interview comes after a relatively quiet week where the rapper and entrepreneur promised to go on a 1-month hiatus from talking to anyone, drinking alcohol, and having sex. It also comes after a whirlwind month in October, which saw Kanye West come under fire after a series of anti-Semitic statements made in interviews and on social media. What do you think about Kanye saying his mom was sacrificed? Let us know in the comment section below.
At the rally, a few APC supporters who showed up to root for the leader they want had this to say about the proposed Tinubu-Shettima government, including a few notable Nollywood actors.
I feel like we're at a critical point in our history and we need to make sure that we put the right people to lead us. If we don't do that, I don't know what will become of us. There's a worldwide economic crunch. We can see it, we can feel it. So we have to, we're referred to as a third world country because we're not first world. So at this point in time, I feel we must, no matter what we do, put the right person to lead us. He has the capacity, he's intelligent, we've seen it, we've experienced it. Some of the things that he created in Lagos was taken over by the federal.
We are not asking for a problem who will be running relay. Is it relay we are asking him to come and run? We are asking him to come and transfer that technology, that thing in his head, to people, which he has been doing over the years. Look at the number of people he has built. A lot of them are doing fantastically well.
The socio-political group Yoruba Oke Oyafun Asiwaju Ati Shettima, YOFAS, is a pressure group of Yorubas who live in the 19 northern states of the country with the sole purpose of mobilizing voters for the actualization of the presidency of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate, Senator Kasim Shettima, for the 2023 presidential elections. Most of them were born in the northern part of the country and have their families, careers, businesses, and livelihoods there. The membership of YOFAS is drawn from all facets of the economy, consisting of professionals like lawyers, doctors, engineers, and accountants. Other members are taxi drivers, artisans, and other auxiliary workers in various sectors of the economy. The objective of this town hall meeting is to sensitize its membership on the need to participate in the 2023 general elections, particularly to actualize the presidential aspirations of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate Kashim Shettima. The town hall meeting hoisted zonal coordinators for the 19 northern states in 3 zones of the federation, namely the Northwest, North Central, and the Northeast. The zonal coordinators took turns to elaborate on their level of preparedness as well as the likely challenges in their locations. Present at the meeting was the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, who himself has lived most of his early life in the north.
Having them come together from all the states, 19 states in the north, as YOFAS is unprecedented. It shows collective action. It shows unity amongst them. It gives them identity. And of course, they want to be part of the political campaign because you have a Yoruba man running as president, and we need every Yoruba person, we need every Nigerian to be behind it. So I think it's a very laudable initiative, and that's why I'm here to identify with them.
The essence of this meeting is to put all the Yoruba indigenous from resident in 19 northern states together to be able to vote for Asiwaju and Shettima come 2023 general election.
Women, when we are talking of building homes, women are not left behind. They are even first. So with this, our women are ready. They are ever ready. As they are ever ready, they are very ready to stand by us, to stand by Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Shettima and APC on this movement.
The meaning literally means that all the Yorubas in the 19 northern states come together to show solidarity support for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not because he's our father, not because he's our son, but we believe that he has the capacity and the capability of steering the leadership of this, our great country, Nigeria, to the best and the highest level we can imagine.
Adav Talib Atta, Alive News.
Youth bulge has become a common phenomenon in most developing countries. Accounting for 70% of the country's population, it is no longer contention about how numbers speak volumes for a country, society, and organization. The United Nations in July released the 2022 World Population Proposals. The report projected that global population will reach the 8 billion mark by 2050 and that India will surpass China as the most populous country in the world with a whopping 1.66 billion people. Nigeria, according to the projection, will be the fourth most populated country on earth with 375 million people, with youth accounting for about 262 million of this population. What does this mean for Nigeria? How does Nigeria then react to this bulge? Is Nigeria's youth bulge a bane or a boon? We will find answers to these questions on today's edition of the program. Welcome to Politics Alive, everyone. I am Olugbenga George.
In Nasarawa State, talk to students of the Nasarawa State University, KEFI, on the recurrent situation that has been going on, how robbers are attacking students who live in their lodges just across the school campus. Let's talk to a few students and get their opinion and get what they have to say on the recent occurrence.
It has been a rough couple of weeks for the students of Nasarawa State University, KEFI, as armed robbers stormed BCG, family and friends, and Gwanlambu area and collected their belongings. The robberies have been reportedly going on for over a month, and many students have been attacked and severely injured.
And we've been having incessant cases of robbery attack from various student hostels. Like, the thing has become so rampant that the next compound will be waiting for their turn. Like, they will come to this compound and leave a message for the next compound that they are coming. And they don't normally come like one or two. They come in their 30s, in their 10s, so to speak, you know, and all that. So the thing is very, very, very serious, such that students now keep vigil to make sure that their hostels are not busted. Those that have encountered them confess that they came, they do come with arms, with daggers, with cutlass, and in some instances, some people confess that they saw them with a gun, whether it's a den gun or it's an automatic gun, that we cannot say, because none of such things have been, displayed by the authorities. But we know that they normally come armed. They come armed with cutlass, daggers, sticks, and all sort of lethal weapons that you can imagine. Mode of operation, you can say they have insiders. By that I mean there are people that are resident in these areas that are bad eggs. They are leading them to different compounds to do all this, bad act they are doing. But majority of them are not resident in this particular community of students. Yeah, they just come in either from the nearby Maraba or some of these, suburbs, and they came to perpetrate, because those that chased them to the bush said that these guys are not just normal, all these clean guys that buff. They are like rugged guys. They know the terrain. They run into swamps. They run into bushes as speedious as anything you can think of, because they know the way they are going.
The armed robbers, who are said to come in their numbers, invade the students' lodge, break their doors to gain access into their rooms, where they rob and attack them. Victims of this ordeal narrate their encounter.
What happened was that in my own area, though it has been happening for over 3 weeks now, almost, yeah. So I think last week Thursday they came to our side to around 2 a.m. on Thursday, and robbed us and collected our phones, injured some people, collected laptops, iPhones, and so on like that. And they were much in number.
The unrest we have been having in this school environment, they have been terrorized by armed robbers and thieves, which have been very disturbing to the students. I myself was a victim. They collected my phones, my iPhone 12 Pro Max, and my laptop, and they tried to rape my younger sister. But I was trying to struggle with them. That was when I noticed that they were very, very plenty. They were up to 30. They collected my friend Oppo, as you can see him over there. They collected many things. They attacked me. and they came around telling us, we reported to the school security actually. They were telling us things to be done. There was even a curfew. But all the curfew was to no avail. In utmost good faith, the curfew was nothing. It meant nothing. Because even under the curfew, we were still attacked. The student was caught. His arteries was cut off. We don't even know it was hire killer or kidnappers or armed robbers. We don't even know what we are facing, but we are ready for them now.
In a quest to speak to some of the vigilante group located at Family and Friends area while conducting this report, we were met with an empty office. Speaking to Gabriel Paul, National Association of Nigerian Students Secretary, he states that the Nasarawa State University student government have met with some of the victims and are currently collaborating with different security operatives and the Emir of Kefi to ensure that such incidents doesn't reoccur.
The issue of the attack on students is unhealthy, that is one. And secondly, we have a room which is a platform at SUG, and also in collaboration with the school management, we have discussed down even to the Emir of Kefi. We have an interface with them. We have discussed extensively that precisely BCG, which is the precise location that those things happen, which is unhealthy to students, we were able to map out some strategies. We met with the police officers, which is the DPO. We also met with the Emir of Kefi and also with the Vice Chancellor to also visit those particular locations that those attacks have been carried out. And recently we were able to lay our hands on those 2 or 3 people that are creating those nuisance in this vicinity, and the police assure us that it's going to be patrol towards that location and even in the school vicinity. Like yesterday night, the police and also the military personnel are all around. I want to tell in confidence that the school management at their own end, they're not relenting. They're making sure that they're consolidating on what they told us, that they'll make sure the insecurity, they'll treat it to the barest minimum, because you agree with me that insecurity is a global issue. It's not just a one-side issue. So as such, we are trusting God that together with the SUG, with the Emir, with the security personnel, all those issues will be settled. According to witnesses, 3 suspects have been arrested, but efforts made to speak to the police to confirm this were abortive, as we were told that the DPO was not on seat. Adav Talib Atta, Alive News.
The future of decent jobs for our youth is to make sure that they are upskilled, they're given the digital skills they need, they're also given the finance and credit they need to start.
Youth bulge has become a common phenomenon in most developing countries. Accounting for 70% of the country's population, it is no longer contention about how numbers speak volumes for a country, society, and organization. The United Nations in July released the 2022 World Population Proposals. The report projected that global population will reach the 8 billion mark by 2050, and that India will surpass China as the most populous country in the world with a whopping 1.66 billion people. Nigeria, according to the projection, will be the 4th most populated country on earth with 375 million people, with youth accounting for about 262 million of this population. What does this mean for Nigeria? How does Nigeria then react to this bulge? Is Nigeria's youth bulge a bane or a boon? We will find answers to these questions on today's edition of the program. Welcome to Politics Alive, everyone. I am Olugbenga George. Joining me to have this conversation is Nigeria's Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Chief Sunday Akindare. It's good to have you join me today, sir.
Thank you, Benga, for having me on the Live News.
Let's begin this conversation immediately because I just reeled out some statistics which I'm quite sure that you're very much abreast of in Nigeria. Rising population, that is, statistics went further to to say that at the moment, Nigeria has about 217 million people, which for me is a whooping sum, and I'm sure you will agree in the real sense of it. And interestingly, it is important to note that 70% of this population are people, young people below the age of 30. So you are looking at the larger percentage of people between 18 and 25. And of course, the other side, that are just a little above 30 to meet the youth age demand, which is about 35%. So you put these two people together, you're talking about 262 million people. That is huge, I must say. And when you also put this together, you will see either see a set of people who will perhaps need education, will need to go to school, who will also need jobs after graduating from school. This same set of people. And you also have the part that, having been done primarily with schooling, will also need to move on to the higher echelon of life and, get settled, begin to demand the basic necessities. So it's a chain when you look at it, and quite a lot of things that these people will need. But basically, when we look into the Nigerian situation, from many parts of the things that ought to be, that we could call basic amenities, we find out that it is lacking, it is unavailable, for this set of people, this population, that forms the greater percentage of the country. And of course, it makes the future look bleak. And you would agree with me that successive governments, since independence, have tried their hands on making sure that, to some extent, the lot of the youth improve and get better in Nigeria. Just administration is also inclusive. I mean, the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, which, of course, you are serving as the Minister for Youth in the second dispensation. I'd like to know, as a matter of speaking, what specific thing you would consider to be your most glorious moments, in the sense of what would you say you have done as the Minister of Youth and Sports Development that you are most proud of, where especially we are filling these gaps of jobs, of education, and all the rest is concerned in Nigeria?
Well, let me first say that the youth bulge has been around for nearly a decade. We've seen the trajectory in the last 8 to 10 years on an incremental basis. So the report that just came out bears testimony to the fact that the youth bulge has been around for us. But also for Africa as a continent, and also for Nigeria, one of the African countries from the report I read will have the youngest youth population. But bringing it back home, the youth bulge, the data we have seen so far, the projections are compelling. And what this data does at this time, coming at this time, is to get governments to really sit back, hunker down, and really invest in our youth and in youth development. Beyond what any government will have done in the past, it's important to have very detailed programs for the youth over time. In terms of national policies, in terms of projects, in terms of initiatives. To a very large extent, before I come to what we have done, I must also say that at a global level, we must have a youth agenda driven by the United Nations. Because when we have a global blueprint, countries can easily key into it, and then we can pool resources, not only from national funding, but also global funding. You see the approaches we've had to malaria, approaches we've had to climate change. The youth bulge and the youth challenge ought to be a top agenda, like we have the climate change and the resources coming into that. But I also think that countries, while waiting for that global approach and that Marshall Fund that will come in, countries must sit up, look at their data, and based on research, know what needs to be done. I think under President Muhammadu Buhari, what we have done is we've seen over 45 different youth-focused programs. Some of them are still ongoing. Some of them have wound down. Some of them will start very soon, even though there are just 4 months to go. I speak to one of them, which is the Empower program, the very first that came up 7 years ago, reputed to be the best in sub-Saharan Africa, a youth empowerment program. We have the number going up to about 1 million youth that are benefiting from it. That's one. Two, and that Empower program also has NTech and Agric. So it has a lot of flavors, about 5 different flavors. And several of our youth are benefiting from that. Then we talk about the youth investment, the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, NYIF, the very first of its kind, established by this government. 75 billion naira was approved, 75 billion naira spanning over 3 years. We're in the second year, we're still pulling those resources. So far, we've had about 4.1 million Nigerians youth apply. About 32,000 have been approved. Over 28,000 have already assessed this loan. We hope that in the next 2 months or so, we're going to onboard another 50,000 youth that will benefit. This fund is for entrepreneurship. And it speaks to the fact that beyond white-collar jobs, beyond civil service jobs, what else can we do to quickly get our youth employed? We live in an age of digital skills, over 150 digital skills. We see the Asian countries emphasizing skills, hands-on, entrepreneurship, innovation. And then we've seen our youth really have the skills for this. So the future of decent jobs for our youth is to make sure that they are upskilled, they're given the digital skills they need, they're also given the finance and credit they need to start businesses. No country has been able to solve youth unemployment problem without placing its youth deliberately on the path of entrepreneurship. And that's the future. We have SMEs, we have SMEs, we have micro businesses. All of this can grow. The strength of our economy today is the small businesses, the micro businesses.
Well, I'm glad you talk about that. I'm glad you talk about small businesses and how much they impact on the economy at the moment. You will agree with me that since you've talked about empowering the youth to ensure that they are able to fill the spaces and able to participate, we've seen quite a lot of things that you've done in this administration. The sports ministry, for example, netting about 35 medals in just a single year in 2022 in the sports sector. You've also talked about the 30,000 youth empowerment program, the Empower program. You speak about the Nigeria Youth Investment Fund,
right?
That are the first.
And there are a couple more. There are a couple more programs that we have done. As we speak now, we're running the second edition of the 60-day app challenge. When we had the app challenge 2 years ago, we had thousands of our youth who are innovators really come up. And then we did a competition. 1 million naira, sorry. Some got 500,000 naira. Out of these 10, 4 of them have gone to win several international awards. So the second edition is running now. Last year, we started the training on cybersecurity. Over 61,000 of our youth applied. Because as a ministry, we found out that there are so many jobs waiting to be taken up in the cybersecurity world. We need cybersecurity certified experts. We've trained about 61,000 of them. A few of them will move on to the second stage of training and then eventually get certified. So overall, we've done close to 280 to 300,000 trainings equipping our youth with skills. But let me tell you the elephant in the room. Because when you talk about population of the youth, you talk about the talent of the youth. You need to speak to how you're going to absorb these talents into the system. And that's why we have the training, the fund for entrepreneurship. But the challenge, the elephant in the room, is the scale. You see, when you have 10 million youth waiting in line and you're able to provide training for just 1 million youth, it seems as if you've done nothing. And then it boils down to the question of resources. The resources allocated to youth development in a deliberate way, side by side with resources to education, because the quality of education is also important. Most of our youth are unemployable because there's a skills mismatch. People coming out of the universities, what the degrees they have do not match the jobs available. I talk about cybersecurity. How many people, graduates of cybersecurity, do we have? So there must be a deliberate market survey, which we have done, so that we can deal with the issue of skills mismatch. Once you come out, you will have been trained in a course of study where you have opportunities. But scale is important. And that's why we need partners. Okay. At the ministry, we have 13 strategic implementation partners, because we know that government alone cannot do it. And we've seen, the positive effect of that. IBM, Google My Business, quite a number of them. Microsoft have worked with us to just keep training our youth over time.
Those are achievements that we can always refer to. But you also spoke about other programs that the administration are doing. But it will shock you to know, Honorable Minister, that a lot of youth are not even aware of some of these things that you are doing. The other time, I was speaking to a set of youth, and it will shock you to know, school educated, that they do not know about the existence of a program like Empower. Yes, because ultimately nothing connects them with the government. You also have, you talk about Empower and some of these other programs that you are talking about. People are unaware of your programs. And I'm wondering how much that has impacted on benefiting or not benefiting from this.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, no government ever has sufficient funds to go around. No ministry will ever have the funds that it needs. But also, we've operated on a public-private partnership, which most governments in the world encourage. Under President Muhammadu Buhari, we have had great support and encouragement in that direction. And we have seen positive results. For instance, the IBM, during COVID, through that partnership, was able to train over 60,000 of our youth with digital skills. In sports, we've seen through PPP, adopt an athlete and adopt a pitch. You see the Moshood Abiola Stadium coming back after Dangote spent money on it. We see Surulere Stadium after 19 years on its way back. We've seen stadium in Dara and a couple of other places. Then adopt an athlete. We've seen 48 of our athletes adopted just to help them prepare for international competitions, getting between $10,000 and $20,000. So we are also seeing a president who, as in the last 3.5 years, I can say, because that's the time I've been in charge of the sports and youth ministry, help us we've moved from 2.6 billion naira budget as a ministry to as high as 8.5 billion naira approvals. Beyond that, we've also seen the provision of almost 4.6 billion or thereabouts under the sustainability effort that came up after COVID, in which we were able to train a lot of people. So in the last 3.5 years, we've had an increment in our finances. This same president approved 75 billion naira for 3 years. Never happened before. Under this same president, we had the opportunity to have a seat at the table when they prepared the ERPG, the National Development Plan. And for the very first time, 2021 to 2025, youth development will get 62 billion. Sports development will get 80 billion. In SA 140 billion naira. It's never happened before, projected in the next 4 years. A collaboration between the private and the public sector. So, there are really good signs. We have policies in place, we have initiatives in place, and if there's a continuum thereafter, this story will change.
It's quite interesting how you preempt the next question that is about to come, and then you deliver it with just one word. You have just preempted, my next point, which takes me down to talking about continuity. Governance is a continuum, so to say. Successive governments, have initiated programs and ideas, geared towards empowering the youth and giving them, better positioning within the Nigerian economy. I'll take you back, for example, to the closest one, which is the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, who introduced quite a number of exciting programs. I must say that one of those programs, that still excites me till now is the UN programming of that era, where you had youths getting access to financing their businesses to the tune of 8 to 10 million naira. and you had a lot of youth benefiting from it. And that's just one of the programs. You also have several other programs like the SureP, the Subsidy Reinvestment Program. SureP, I began to see quite a number of programs.
Well, let me say, I've also read a lot of reports. You don't want to bring up SureP right now, because if we talk about SureP under PDP, the details are horrific. And that's why when this administration came on, we decided to review some of these programs and come up with something better that's more sustainable. The Empower, for instance, there's a sustainable model built into the Empower program. Beyond that, you look at the social welfare program. There's a social national register for social welfare. Never. This government, in spite of its lean resources, is running a welfare program for the most vulnerable in our country. We've never had that before. So, continuum is important. But then, you should not be afraid to review any program or policy that is in place. Review is a constant towards improving, towards plugging loopholes, towards making sure that it is better and it is impactful. That's very important. And like you said, the previous government made efforts. This current government has accentuated its efforts in different directions. I talked about 45 different youth programs. That was driven by the fact that we're having a youth bulge. We're having a youth population that needed more attention, that needed more investment. This administration has made the paradigm shift from just empowering our youth to investing in their skills and their innovative minds. You see, there's a gap, because when you're empowered, it's temporary. But when there's an investment, either in forms of giving you skills that you can use, either in forms of investing in your business, that is long lasting. Because if you are an entrepreneur as a youth, you can become a creator of wealth. You can become an employer of labor. As a youth, you have a business, you can employ 3 or 4 other youth. You can contribute to the GDP. And we have data that has shown what's going to happen. And I think that we have been able to set down the foundational structure and policies that is necessary to be able to deal with the scale. What we need to do is bring a commitment of resources that will match these good ideas so that we can increase and scale up the number of our youth that will take off the unemployment market. We can increase the number of our youth that we place on the path of entrepreneurship. And all of this will connect together. But then, right now, the model is that the private sector must interface and work with the government to be able to achieve this.
Honorable Minister, that's quite interesting, that we have prospects of more youth, of more entrepreneurs, becoming independent financially, contributing to the economy of Nigeria. But you would also agree with me that even the big companies are not finding it easy at the moment. When you talk about the rise in inflation rate, inflation at the moment is over 21% in the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And increasing taxation, that continues to also rise as government enforces its revenue generation, or intensifies its revenue generation, so to speak. I would like you to speak to the Japa syndrome and how government is trying to provide solution to this, and yet you still have a lot of Nigerian youth wanting to leave the country.
Yeah, in fact, it's good you brought up the Japa syndrome. But let me, my entry into answer that question will start from what you said earlier, that the lack of trust in government programs. I often say that when the MTN as a company says that we're going to do an interview or a training, people rush in because they believe MTN. When the Ministry of Youth and Sports says, oh, we want to do X, people don't come at all because they believe it's not true. When you don't enter a race, you don't expect to win. When you don't apply, and you don't apply yourself to the opportunities available, you don't benefit. So you cannot blame anybody for it. I agree that over time there's been a deficit in trust between government and the people, especially the youth. But also, it's important. Even the MTN thrives because there's a government in this country and it functions. Without government, without regulation, without some of the things that a government provides, MTN will not thrive. So if the same government says we have this opportunity, what do you lose if you apply and you don't get it? It's just that you don't get it. I can tell you that hundreds of thousands of our youth who have been able to have that modicum of faith in government, who have applied, have benefited tremendously. And I keep making the urge to our youth to say what we have done is to also democratize the recruitment process. In the past, it was a bit manual. Forms are printed and then circulated and is limited. Now we go on social media. We did a research. Where is the best place to meet the bulk of our youth in this country? It's on social media. If you're not on Facebook, you're on Instagram. So we tell people, we announce that apply online. You have footprints of your application. So it's like a tabula rasa. Unlike you waiting for your lawmaker to bring a form to you, which is limited, very limited, now you open it up and everybody can apply online. So unless you apply, you cannot benefit from government. And that's the way it is all over the world. Whether you distrust government or not is secondary. Once government opens the door and says come in, you need to come in first and see what the goods that are there. If you find the goods in that room not okay for you, you walk back out. But you might just find one or two goods that are okay for you. And that's the plea I have to most of our youth, that efforts are being made to make sure that these programs are as transparent as possible. But if there's an opportunity, give it a shot.
Honorable Minister, I've been tinkering with some thoughts in my head, especially where this syndrome of Japaism is concerned. Statistics provides that in 2021 alone, we had about $17.21 billion remitted from diaspora remittances in the country, which is way above what we have gotten in Nigeria in foreign direct investments from countries, from businesses, from foreign direct investments into Nigeria. So that goes to show that the Japaism, or wanting to migrate from Nigeria, brings some sort of benefit to the country. But I'd like you to speak to the issue, especially how you think the country can help to expand this. How can we take advantage of this? Is it possible, for example, that Nigeria finds a way, to help those who want to travel legally, so that their data is captured, and when they go, we know that this automatically goes to improve, diaspora remittance in the country.
You see, every country. I've lived overseas for over 14 years. I lived in the US. And every country has the Japa syndrome. I see the influx of people from the former Czech Republic, people from Russia, getting into Europe, getting into America. So the Japa syndrome is found everywhere. It's just the percentage of it, dependent. But within the Japa syndrome, which of course is a two-way street, people are Japaing out of the country, but some people are also returning the country. The volume might be different. I have a lot of my friends that have come back to set up businesses. Some of them still stay there, but they're here every 3 months to pursue their, because this economy and this country is still viable. This is a country in which you can invest in pure water today, and 1 year down the road, you break up in profits, employing other people. So there are opportunities. Maybe certain things might not be exactly as we wanted in terms of energy provision and all of them. Now, the positive angle of Japa, which we never talk about, is the remittances. People that have gone out because we're skillful, able to get great jobs, they remit money back into the economy, helping their families and the young one. That trend is mostly based on your skills, professional skills. Government cannot really be a central agency to facilitate the exit of its citizens out of the country. That, of course, is the freedom and right of every individual. But what we can do as a government, because I've asked so many people, why did you leave the country? there's insecurity. Electricity is not constant. There are no jobs. Hardly does anyone really say, oh, if I start a business, I will not profit from it. So some of these key issues have been addressed on a gradual basis. And the appeal is that it's a government, like I say, is a continuum. Has this government made efforts to address these issues? Absolutely. But no government ever solves all the problems in a lifetime. Some problems, you look at them, will take 15 years. And I keep telling our youth, and I tell most people I engage with, we say America is this today, the United Kingdom is today. Just back up a bit, do a bit of research. How old is America today? Over 200 years. How old is the United Kingdom? We are barely 66, 67. Can you check where America was at the age of 67 as a nation? Or the United Kingdom? You'll be shocked the stage they were. Here, we're in a better stage when it comes to technology, when it comes to so many other things we have. So I say, well, you know what? Nations and developmental stages also need time. What we need to know is, are we progressing at a pace we should, so that when we're 200 years like America, we can be able to say we have a full society. So Nigeria is not America today. It won't be America today. But we have signs, and the greatest sign we have is the youth of this country. Resourceful, innovative, talented, professional. We see them go out of this country and excel. And I say, any government that fails to invest in a deliberate manner, on a consistent basis, in the youth of this country, that country will not advance.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. It's been a wonderful conversation with you. Thank you so much. All right, viewers, that's where we come to the end of this conversation. It's been a wonderful conversation with the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport, Chief Sunday Akindare, talking about the efforts of the Buhari administration in improving the lot of youth in the country. We will bring him back and have more conversation on youth concerns in the country. Till then, keep watching our live television. I am Olubunga. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Shall we take the national anthem, please? 1, 2, go.
Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's followed and faith. The heroes past shall never be served with heart and mind in freedom, peace and unity.
Shall we be seated, please? President, Honorable Ministers, the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Chief of Staff to the President, Chiefs of the anti-graft agencies, officials, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The Federal Executive needs no notes to come into that literary part of it is,
Your Excellency,
the Governor of the Central Bank,
Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal
of relevant agencies and gentlemen, unveiling of the new Naira
notes. After first making his, in a short while, His Excellency Mr. the Chairman of the IC, then below the platform. So, Your Excellency, Mr. President.
The Secretary.
This morning marks a major milestone in our efforts to solve the numerous challenges facing the management of our legal tender currency, with the unveiling of the 3 redesigned denominations of 1,000 Naira, 500 naira, and 200 naira banknotes. I'd like to talk about the need for the currency design, its benefits, the features of the new banknotes, and the unwavering support of Mr. President to the Central Bank of Nigeria. As you are all aware, currency management is a key function of the Central Bank of Nigeria, as enshrined in Section 2, subsection B of the CBN Act 2007. Indeed, the integrity of a local currency tender, the efficiency of its supply, as well as its efficacy in the conduct of monetary policy are some of the hallmarks of a great central bank. In recent times, however, currency management in Nigeria has faced several challenges that have continued to grow in scale and sophistication, with unintended consequences for the integrity of both the Central Bank of Nigeria and the country. Some of these challenges primarily include, first, a significant hoarding of banknotes by members of the public, with statistics showing that 2.72 trillion naira out of 3.26 trillion naira currency in circulation as of June 2022 was outside the vaults of our commercial banks across the country and supposedly held by members of the public. These statistics shows that 84.71% of our currency in circulation are outside the vaults of commercial banks, with only 15.29% at the central bank and the commercial bank's vaults. Second, is the worsening shortage of clean and fit banknotes with attendant negative perception of the CBN and increased risk to financial stability. Third, there is increasing ease by criminals and risk of counterfeiting evidenced by several security reports received by the security agencies, the CBN, and the government. The benefits of the currency redesign to Nigerian economy are enormous, given that, A, this policy will help to control inflation, as the exercise will bring the hoarded currency back into the banking system, thereby making monetary policy more effective. B, it will also help with better design and implementation of monetary policy, as we would have much more accurate data on money supply and our monetary aggregates. Third, we believe that this exercise will help in increasing financial inclusion, moving towards a more cashless economy, and ensuring greater formalization of the Nigerian economy. D, the currency redesign would assist in the fight against corruption, as the exercise would rein in the higher denomination used for corruption, and the movement of such funds from the banking system could be tracked easily by the relevant security agencies. Your Excellency, sir, although global best practice is for central banks to redesign, produce, and circulate new local currency within every 5 to 8 years, our Naira has not been redesigned in the last 19 years. On the basis of these trends, problems, facts, and benefits of currency redesign, and in line with Section 2B, Section 18, and Section 19, subsections A and B of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007, the management of the CBN sought and indeed obtained the approval of the President Muhammadu Buhari to redesign, produce, and circulate new series of banknotes at 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira levels. After obtaining Mr. President's approval, the CBN directed the Nigerian Security and Minting Company, our own print, to begin printing the new banknotes. The redesigned 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira banknotes will have the features of enhanced security, greater durability, attractiveness, and our rich heritage. Your Excellency, sir, the ability of the Central Bank of Nigeria to initiate sound policies that positively impact Nigerians and support economic growth, such as the currency design policy, is due to the independence of the Central Bank of Nigeria. I'd like to also emphasize that the independence of the Central Bank of Nigeria, though codified in our law, would not have been possible without the full and total support of President Muhammadu Buhari, who has made this policy initiative possible and successful. Indeed, Mr. President, only, and I repeat, only a president of your esteemed and incorruptible stature could have done what we are witnessing today. We say this because instead of redesigning in 5 to 8 years, we delayed for almost 19 years. And for this, we are exceedingly grateful to Mr. President. Most importantly, Mr. President, in order to test the capacity of the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company, you insisted that the first set of these currencies must be printed in Nigeria. Before now, due to whether security or leakage problems, what we will find is that the first set of currencies will be printed abroad. But Mr. President, you insisted that we must trust our mint and that we need to be able to. We thank Mr. President for your unflinching confidence in the Nigerian mint. We also thank the staff and the management of the Nigerian Security and Minting Company for living up to the expectation by working tirelessly to actualize Mr. President's directive to print these currencies locally. I'd like to thank my colleagues at the Central Bank of Nigeria programs. My gratitude also goes to Managing Director of Nigerian Security Printing Minting Company, Mr. Ahmed Halilu and his team, and I also like to appreciate the task force on the new Naira banknotes, including our deputy governors, the CEO of Access Bank, Guarantee Trust Bank, Unity Bank, First Bank, and Fidelity Bank. I also thank all the bank CEOs in the Bankers Committee, the representatives of FinTech Association, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, the National Security Advisor, the Director of Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, the Inspector General of Police and his team, the representatives from the President's Office, and all other stakeholders that have contributed in no small measure in making this day possible this morning. I thank you all for your attention, sir.
The Chief of Staff, and great satisfaction that I welcome you to today's event, which is to officially launch the new Naira banknotes. Your Excellencies, international best practice requires central banks and national authorities to issue new or redesigned currency notes every 5 to 8 years. Yet, it is now almost 20 years since the last major redesign of our local currency. This implies that the Naira is long overdue to wear a new look. A cycle of banknote redesign is generally aimed at achieving specific objectives, including, but not limited to, improving security of banknotes, mitigating counterfeiting, preserving the collective national heritage, controlling currency in circulation, and reducing the overall cost of currency management. As is known, our local laws, specifically the Central Bank of Nigeria Act of 2007 grants the Central Bank of Nigeria the power to issue and redesign the Naira. In line with this power, the Central Bank Governor approached me earlier in this year to seek my permission to embark on a currency redesign project. I considered all the facts and reasons presented before me by the Central Bank. There was an urgent need to take control of currency in circulation and to address the hoarding of Naira banknotes outside the banking system, the shortage of clean and fit banknotes in circulation, and the increase in counterfeiting of high-denomination Naira banknotes. It is on this basis that I gave my approval for the redesign of the 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira banknotes. While this may not be apparent to many Nigerians, only 4 out of the 54 African countries print their currencies in their countries, and Nigeria is one. Hence, a majority of African countries print their currencies abroad and import them the way we import other goods. That is why it is with immense pride that I announce to you that these redesigned currencies are locally produced right here in Nigeria by our Security Printing and Minting PLC. The new Naira banknotes have been fortified with security features that made it difficult to counterfeit. These new banknotes will help the central bank design and implement better monetary policy objectives. They will also enrich our collective memory of Nigeria's heritage. Let me thank the Governor of the Central Bank and his deputies for this initiative. I also thank the Managing Director, Executive Directors, and staff of the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting for working tirelessly with the Central Bank to make the currency redesign a reality and for printing the new Naira notes within a comparatively short time. I am delighted now to officially launch the 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira banknotes. I thank you all for your attention, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The one you're holding down a little, sir, is reflecting the light.
Mr. President, here is a copy. 1,000 Naira. 500 Naira. And 200 Naira.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Federal Executive Council. Yeah. To formally inform Council, the former member.
That was guided and training is targeted at the response. By bringing
Like you heard me when I read my speech at the council chambers, the practice worldwide is that currencies should be redesigned or replaced or reissued every 5 to 8 years. Excuse me. But for Nigeria, we have not had the opportunity of redesigning and reissuing currency in the last almost 19 years. The Central Bank of Nigeria, by law, has a mandate to reissue and redesign currency for the country and for the Nigerian people every 5 to 8 years. And I want to hope that after this, after the event of today, the Central Bank of Nigeria can just take it as part of its programs to see to it that within 5 to 8 years, the currencies are redesigned and reissued. It is because mainly the central bank should be able to have control, full control of the size of currency in circulation. That is the sole mandate of the Central Bank of Nigeria, because it has implications for monetary policy management in the country. There is no need for anybody to think that this program is targeted at anyone. Like you heard the president speak in the chambers, he said that the discussion to redesign and reissue currency started early in the year. We took painstaking efforts in looking at the pros and cons and the reasons when it should be and why it should be done. And the president, in his wisdom, decided that yes, it must be done. In the past, I have to confess that attempts by the Central Bank of Nigeria to redesign and reissue currencies have been resisted. And that is the reason I also read in my speech that it's only a president of the esteem and stature of President Muhammadu Buhari that could have done this. And I want to see this opportunity to appeal to members of the public that there is no need for any insinuations giving the impression that this is targeted at any individual. There is no attempt at that. We're doing our work, and we would continue to do our work. Thank you. Our policy of redesign and reissue of currency is not targeted at anyone. But of course, we have the laws, and we will indeed be more intense in ensuring that the provisions of the law and our CBN regulations about the size and volume of currencies that people can hold or can carry or can withdraw, that we would insist that this is done going forward. In other countries, you will find, say in the US, you want to withdraw $10,000 from the counter, you will be interrogated. You will fill numerous forms. They will even track the use of that $10,000 cash you are withdrawing. Or you want to withdraw 10,000 pounds from the counter, they will refuse. And if you insist, you will fill forms. I think the problem we've had in the past is the insistence that, oh, this is a cash economy. There is no economy that is imbued with the thinking that it has to be cash economy. The world has moved away from cash, predominantly cash, to cashless economy. And I think Nigeria and the Central Bank of Nigeria is prepared at this time to move towards a cashless economy. And that is the reason why, following the redesign and issuance of this note, we would go forward to insisting that cashless will be nationwide. We will restrict the volume of cash that people will withdraw over the counter. If you need to draw large volumes of cash, you will fill uncountable forms. We will take your data, whether it's your BVN, your NIN, so that security agencies like EFCC or enforcement agencies like EFCC and ICPC can follow you and be sure that you are taking that money for good purpose. We have to work as a country. Nigeria is the biggest country, both in population and economy in Africa. And we have to ensure that we do things the right way that also positions us as a leader in Africa and one of the leading countries in the world. We must do things right, and I think it will start from today. Thank you. Well, it is in their mind when they say the time is short. We will not go with them on that destination. What we are saying is this. We announced this program October 26th, 2022. And we have said that from today, this currency that is issued will be legal tender in Nigeria or all over the world, wherever it is going to be accepted. So between October 26th and January 31, 2023, we believe that is over 100 days. Like the president has said, if you have cash, it should not take you more than 100 days to be able to deposit it in your bank and take whatever little quantity you need for your use. The banks, we have made adequate arrangement. The banks have been told that they will keep their currency processing centers open from Mondays to Saturdays, even to late hours every day. We have also offered that the Central Bank of Nigeria process currency centers across the 36 states of the Federation, including Abuja, 37, will be available to process cash from Mondays to Saturdays. It might interest us to know that on a daily basis, the Deputy Governor of Operations calls the banks, calls the CBN branches to find out if there are queues or if there are some form of congestion about people depositing cash. There is none. We have also made available through our agency banking arrangement people who in villages can use their POS and their stores to receive and pay cash. In 2018, we had 86,000 touch points for agency banking. As at October, just last month, the numbers of those who have financial system or banking system touch points, our agency banking arrangement has 1.4 million points. That means that we have made available, we are making available almost, so there is no local government where you don't have agent bankers that can do this on our behalf. So it's as good as saying we have over 1 million points or branches of banks all over the country where you can deposit and take your cash to. There is no reason for anybody to think that he cannot access cash or be able to pay his cash into a bank. So we are not going to go with those people on their journey to say that time is short. In our wisdom, in the wisdom of the president, time is not short. We have more than ample time to do so. I'll tell you this. These currencies, these notes, they cannot be counterfeited because of the security features in them. Nobody can counterfeit them. What you could only find will be people making photocopies of these notes. If you follow due process to check the authenticity of a currency, take them through the UV lights, you will find that these currencies can never be counterfeited. The best you will find is photocopies of these currencies. And that's why we still call them counterfeit. But what I'm trying to say in essence is this. To reduce that incidence of counterfeiting or photocopying, that is why we're saying the CBN must now, without waiting, every 5 to 8 years, must redesign and reissue these notes, so that those who think they can take advantage of the system by counterfeiting will know that the game is over with them. Thank you. Like I told you, usually those kind of volumes are not what we would like to disclose. Like we told you, 3.23 trillion naira is in circulation. Out of the 3.23 trillion naira in circulation, 2.72 trillion is outside the bank vaults. And we will insist that those 2.72 trillion naira should return back to the bank and central bank's vault by 31st January 2023. If you choose to hold it after January 31st, 2023, it becomes useless in your hands. That's all. Thank you. Abby?
Alive TV.
The vote is the most powerful instrument ever devised by man for breaking down injustice and destroying the terrible walls which imprison men because they are different from other men. With this, I welcome you to a brand new episode of Politics Alive, reaching from Alive TV. Most definitely, politics comes to life with critical analysis and discussions of happenings within the corridors of power in Nigeria and across the globe on the show. I am Olubenga George. Today, we look into the subject of voter apathy, what it means, why it exists, its impact on our socio-political development, and possible ways of overcoming the menace. The 2023 general elections is about 46 days away, an anticipated watershed day in our checkered political history. Yet, substantial threats continue to emerge on a daily basis, making the possibility of a free, fair, and credible election doubtful. Less than 24 hours ago, the electoral umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, warned that this year's general elections faces a serious threat of cancellation or postponement if the ravaging insecurity is not properly tackled. INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, represented by the Chairman, Board of Electoral Institute, Professor Abdullahi Abdul-Zuru, gave the warning at the validation of election security training resources in Abuja on Monday. Joining me to look at these issues today is Tochukwu Ifemene, a public policy analyst and youth development expert. He will help us make sense of the issues around voter apathy. It's good to have you join me.
Thank you, Mr. Binga.
Let's go straight to the point. Nigeria is going to have an election in February 2023. It's something that everyone has looked forward to, and I must tell you that tempers are high, emotions are high, and you could even look at the business environment and look at the entire country, and you would see that everyone is well positioned, towards having an election come February and March. Yet against this, you have the Independent National Electoral Commission coming to say, well, there may be a possible postponement of the set date. This, of course, within a crisis. And of course, the Independent National Electoral Commission alludes to this fact. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts, about this possible cancellation, especially at a time when we are still tackling or dealing with the issue of apathy in Nigeria?
Okay, so in the last 3 or 4 general elections, we've had INEC postponing, right? And because they still deliver by doing an election, and because the electorate have not had maybe like a massive outcry to say we don't want that, because the people who are mostly hit sometimes when this postponement happens are the politicians in the field themselves. Okay, there's very high percentage of INEC going that same route again, because we've also imbibed the culture as a country of last minute preparation, contingency plans and everything. Okay, and since it looks like they've gotten away with it all the time, it has now become a culture. I don't see a constitutional crisis arising for me, because at the end of the day they will still do the election. My own problem is that
whether with the issues on the ground of voters' apathy that you still have on ground, people are still being told to go and collect your PVC. You saw the rush when people went to register, but you have now noticed that people are not rushing to go and pick up their PVC. I tell people that there are two things you watch out to observe voters' apathy before it happens. I love people rushing to go and pick their PVCs. If the answer is no, that is already a red flag. Number two, on the election day, are people still coming out for election? If the answer is no, then you now know that, okay, it's going to happen. So INEC always makes contingency plans for what they do. But if you notice, even in the state governments, they hardly make those kind of postponements, but especially in the country. And there are so many things happening at the same time in different parts of the country. In the south, you have their challenges. When you come to the middle belt, we are having relatively calm in some areas. Thank God for the northeast is already getting calm and all that. So, but different factors are playing out in different ways. Okay, so I feel that there will be no constitutional crisis. In fact, we anticipate that it's going to likely happen again, but the main thing is that the election will eventually hold.
Okay, the election will hold, but not at the stated date provided by the Constitution, in which the tenure or the administration of the current administration, the days expires officially, and an election is supposed to happen at that time. Okay,
which is a window INEC is always exploring, because there must be a day for swearing in, so they know that this thing cannot be more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that is why we know that it's likely going to happen. It has happened this number of times. It's likely going to happen.
Yeah, all right. So let's look at the background, especially for which this possible postponement is coming from. The Independent National Electoral Commission is talking about insecurity. And you will agree with me, you just mentioned that across the country, we are witnessing different styles and phases of insecurity across the country. Just a few days ago, kidnappers are still on the rampage. In the northeast, far northeast, you still have the terrorists doing what they like to do best. There are different forms of insecurity in the country. And interestingly, this has remained on the political scene, remained within the Nigerian state for more than a decade now. Meaning that between that period, we have had elections, and this may perhaps be the third one in insecurity. Is this excuse tenable enough, knowing fully well that we have been in a security situation for more than 10 years and we are getting ready for elections? And also, following INEC's bold statements that it has continued to make, especially through its Commissioner on Voter Education, Barrister Festus Okoye, who continues to say that INEC is ready, even if elections were to be conducted today. He has confidently made that statement.
What Nigerians want to see. Nigerians want to see that an election will happen. But the attendant consequence, which we must not lose sight of, is that the insecurity inspires fear in the heart of the electorate. I was in Anambra State last year, before 2 years ago, before November 7, when they had that election. The fear was palpable in the air. The concept of going out to vote, nobody was even talking about going to vote to go and do what, when even the contestants themselves could not even go out to contest. But we have seen a situation where so far so good, most of the contestants have gone around the country, they are doing what they are doing, we are not hearing mass attacks of their vehicles or whatever, So that shows that wherever are the people that may be the sponsor of these terrorists, or whatever mindset or architecture or mastermind that is behind that, has to give way for an election, because it is even to their interest that Nigeria has a change of government. That is what it is. So for us, we believe that INEC, not just that is an excuse, it is actually an existential threat that's already on ground. But INEC's major concern, because nobody will want a situation which we have seen in the past, where a youth corper will go and a youth corper will now become a casualty because somebody has to travel 6 kilometers or cross a river to just go and conduct the election, and security was not guaranteed in that place. So personnel is an issue, whether on INEC's hand or whether in the security agents' hand. Even this stuff that happened just a few days ago, when you hear analysts and you listen to the story and you make your deductions from it, it's still a problem of the states not being able to secure her infrastructure that generates revenue for you. How much more securing an independent arm of government whose job is to provide a credible election? So we're all involved in this, and we're hoping that the federal government will sit up to their responsibility.
All right, I'm just going to draw from your statement. You said whoever is, in charge of this insecurity should give way because it is in their interest.
Of course.
I'd like you to expatiate on that. Are you trying to establish, some of the insinuations around that insecurity is actually a function of certain non-state actors who have the backing of government?
Well, I won't use the word backing of government because I don't have any data to prove that. But I can say with the level of organization, mark the word, that this crime take out their activities, you will know that there's a mastermind behind it. There are several rumors of how people came into the country prior to 2015 election and all that. That story has gone in. Nobody has come out to debunk it. Neither the federal government the present administration of who they lay those things. So for me, it's still alleged. But the organized way in which some of these things happen, and in the last 8 years, we've not seen where some of these people are brought to court, are prosecuted, and used as scapegoat to act as a deterrent. You should know that something is wrong with the state. Because usually the state, anywhere, any society that is civilized, will actually go and they have the ability, by the reason of almost all the military and paramilitary bodies, they have intelligence units. And by the reason of this intelligence unit, look at what happened in the last attack in Kaduna. It was said that they kept on sending reports, but nothing was done with the report to deter it. So one thing comes to clear: the crimes, the hit and run attack, whatever is happening in the southeast, in the northeast, or any part of Nigeria, the issue of kidnapping, people are using GSMs. People are paying ransoms consistently. Almost 90% of everybody that is kidnapped actually pays ransom. And you can't track their line, you can't block their line, and the system is actually doing quite a lot. I must commend the Nigerian police force and the system. That alone shows that it is organized. So if it is organized and it has not been nipped on the board, and a general election is coming, they know that if you don't have peace in the state, even if the state envelopes by the reason of an uproar that everybody is not going to have an election and the rest, even they themselves are going to be doing their crime in a very disorganized way that will not even favor them. So whether they like it or not, the masterminds behind it, that's what happened in Anambra State. Even to a week to the election, 2 weeks to the election, okay, the atmosphere was bad, but you know what? Just in less than a week, the non-state actors were pacified, some kind of negotiations was taken, and people came out en masse to vote to Governor Soludo. How do you say about that? Who are the people that do those kind of negotiations with those kind of non-state actors who say, okay, we have shifted our arms? Meanwhile, we have now known that the so-called non-state actors, most of them are just criminals. It's not just an agitation. So this spreads around Nigeria, and we know that there's a mindset behind that. And there's a mindset on the act of the electorate, and there's also a mindset of the federal government. If you bring this whole mindset together, they know that a state must exist for them to continue their activities.
All right. I wonder if the fact that you mentioned that people came out en masse, I wonder if we can refer that, we can regard that as en masse, considering the number of persons that registered to vote and the number of persons, about 250,000 that brought in, the current governor at the moment. I think maybe en masse maybe a word that we now have to quiz. Okay. All right, but let's talk about voter apathy, especially in Nigeria. So we've been talking about INEC, which is the recognized body to manage the election processes, and then we're also talking about the Nigerian people, who over the years, if this election will perhaps make the 7th election, since democracy returned in 1999. In the sense that advent of the Fourth Republic, which means that there have been several elections, and year after year, perhaps maybe we've added figures, and you look at the statistics of people who come out to vote every year. One of these issues that I would like you to speak to urgently is the fact that in 2019 there were over 20 million people that registered to vote. And in 2022, come down to 2023, a lot of people were excited. I mean, there is so much noise and there is so much excitement out there that, we are ready now, we want to participate. And when you check the figures, especially after INEC removed all the excesses and the overvoting and all of that, we have barely over 9 million, which brings to the fact that, can we really say that apathy has really been addressed, or the people just become conscious but do not take action. I'd like you to speak to that, but that will be after this break. Just stay with us. All right, viewers, let's take this quick break. The conversation continues when we come back from this break. Welcome back, everyone. We're still talking voter apathy in Nigeria. And of course, I'm in the studios with Tochukwu Ifedimene, a public policy analyst and youth development expert. All right, I'm sure you remember my question just before we went on the break. Please, let's get your answer.
So the concept of voters' apathy, we need to first of all understand it. Why do people over these years, why have there been a decline in going out to vote? And like you rightly said, in Anambra State, in the number of millions that were registered, it was just about 250,000, I've forgotten those figures, that actually came out. That's a sign of voters' apathy, right? From President Olusegun Obasanjo election in 1999, where he had the highest number of people that voted, about 24 million, to President Buhari in 2015, when he came in, this new administration, of 15 million. You can see that it has been progressively declining. And there are more reasons why it will decline. Why do people go out to vote? Because they believe that their vote will count. They believe that their voice is respected. They believe that they have a part in statecraft. So they come out very inspired. That's why you see in places where election matters, you will even know that it's the electorates that determine. So you see even the politicians trying to skew whatever they want to say, their considerations, their empathy, their promises, their ideologies, towards the electorate. Because at a point in time, the electorate in any kind of society, especially those that have two-party state or whatever, clearly know who they want, what they want, therefore the party will work like that. When you now come to our own climb, okay, like what we have here, we're really doing well, we are making our mistakes, no matter what people say, you will discover that there are many socio-economic factors that lead to this decline. Okay, so from by the time we entered 2003, where the first decline happened, the second decline by the time they were making a transition to Yar'Adua, we want to start examining what were those socio-economic factors that was responsible for this thing. First of all, people are not happy with the choices of the candidate, knowing that the opposition is weak. Number two, for President Yar'Adua's time, if you notice, it was this issue of Niger Delta stuff. It was high in the air. Okay. Over the time the economy is getting bad, people are not seeing what they are supposed to experience with democracy. Look, I used to tell people, I say, if I was in state, I was a government official, or I got into power, or I'm about getting this thing, first of all, I will make inspirational buy-ins today. It's not just about the charisma, it's about, so Trump did something recently called his contract with the American people. Make it as clear as possible, make everybody see it, have some kind of track record. And if in the first election you live up to it, I can tell you, like a nation in Nigeria, voters' apathy will grossly go down and people will come up. Okay, so first of all is lack of sound strategic communication. I can tell you that, have you not noticed something? Unlike before, as we speak right now on the major TV stations, I did a poll and analysis. Unlike before, by this time you even see different state governments making advert on the popular TVs that you have. Okay, it doesn't matter whether people are watching Arise or channels or maybe Alive and the rest. Different governors will be in almost all the platforms trying to market themselves. I can tell you that I've just noticed that only the governor, the PDP governorship aspirant of Lagos State, that seems to be doing that. What is that saying? Weakness in strategic communication. We've profiled also certain states whose governorship aspirants right now are trying to see, their communication is still extremely weak. They're still trying to play politics, whether weakness in manifesto, weakness for what the people will see, and of course the people have lost confidence. So one of the first things that happens is that because of lack of strategic communication that inspires people to go out, people drop confidence. That is one. The second, though, the most critical one, is what we are now beginning to witness in Nigeria, the concept of insecurity. Or people will now say that even if I go out, will it count? They will still select that kind of mindset until there is a perceived notion of independence of the electoral body. People will not just come out because people will feel like it's still going to be manipulated. But I really want to commend the current crop of the INEC team. They are trying their best, and I pray that they actually achieve it, even far better than the days of Professor Jega. They are really trying their best, and I really want to commend them. They've made a lot of sacrifice. They've started making a lot of arrests. They have the Vivas innovation is quite good. So you see a desperate and spirited attempt to have credible election. Okay, they're trying to be open, they are listening to criticism, they are accepting constructive criticism, they are innovating by the day, they are literally walking around the clock. But you know what? The people right now, half of them are inspired, half of them are not inspired, half of them are scared. And like I keep on saying, sometimes we talk about election in the context of the urban areas. But you know the rural areas where they are the polling units, where the election happens. A lot of these people can you imagine, like in Kaduna State now, with all these kind of things that have been happening in different local government there, that people will now say they want to trump out and come out that day, when they are not even sure that if they come out, the security agencies can protect them.
All right, let's look at the reality here. Okay. Let's check something out. What are the effects of not coming out to vote? Despite all of these challenges and these threats are real. You talked about it. Nigeria, has crossed the poverty index of the world. Over 30 million people live in multidimensional poverty. And we know that this may not change. As a matter of fact, may continue to increase if a government that is willing to deliver the dividends of democracy and lift the people out of the situation by creating programs, by ideas, that will stimulate the economy and give access for the people, to live better lives. If such government is not in power, then this decimal may continue. So what are you saying to the Nigerian people now? Yes, lives first. We know you need to live first of all. So security or insecurity on one hand, and the importance of actually going out against all odds to ensure that our votes count, that these votes actually, what are the dangers really of not taking that decision?
So when a people do not come out to vote for who they're supposed to vote, there are several consequences. First of all, they will not vote who is supposed to be in power. Number two, they will let those who are not supposed to power to have free access to get into power. Number three, they will not hold that government accountable. After all, I didn't bring you in. Everywhere in the world, the politicians are afraid of the wrath and the anger and the backlash of the electorate. So, you didn't elect me, and that's what we're seeing. There's no recall, there's no pressure on government, they are not accountable, so they can do whatever they want. But the one that pains me and scares me more is the fact that people begin to lose trust in the system that produces politicians. The democratic system. Right now we say it's still maybe possibly the best form of government. Africa is still going through our experiment. Nigeria has been stable all these 23 years, okay? We've had the military coups that have been springing up even in African states lately, but Nigeria does seem to be on course. Okay, we've had challenges with every election. If you remember from 2003 election, it will look like the coming election is just going to be like it will not happen. Predictions will happen, foreign agencies will say their stuff, but somehow we just come across and we have that election. And this is not going to be an exception. So the danger for me is that the people I begin to lose trust in a democratic system. And can I tell you, you see, when there's a crack and there's no trust in that process, what it says is that the process that is bringing people is not credible, is flawed, and people cannot. That's why you see President Yar'Adua quickly alluded it to that when he came in, and he was very strict on the rule of law. But I will say to Nigerians now that, you know what, Nigeria have been going out to do international monitoring of almost elections that have been happening around. People have been even studying what we have here with beavers. People are forgetting that some of the states in Africa especially that we try to compare their performance in INEC do not have the kind of population that Nigeria have. They don't have the kind of logistics nightmare that faces INEC as an independent body in delivering this. That is why we've been having a lot of innovations. And can I tell you, from even what we've heard some of them said, there's still going to be even better innovations after this particular election. So for me, I'll tell Nigerians, with what is happening, we've been shouting thought first, thought first, thought first. This is the first time, clearly, that it looks like there's a deviant from the status quo of the two-party system. towards what people want. Whether these third force people are going to win or not, or like some people say they will divide the vote or what, the first time, and it's not, this is not going to happen now on the state level. That's what Nigerians don't understand, and that's what we want them to understand. That very soon, credible people will start coming out, whether it's local government, whether it's House of Assembly, whether it is Senate, whether it is House of Rep, whether it's governorship, whether it's a local government chairman, whether it's councillor, that you can come out if you're a credible man and people know that you are credible, and you can deliver to people dividend of democracy, and you can come out to campaign and vote, you can be elected. For me, that is the message that is happening. So Nigerians should still see this as an improvement, because in the next 2 or 3 elections, I can guarantee you that people will come. Let me make an illustration. The current president we have here was after 4 attempts. President Atiku has been trying to be president right from the days of Chief Moshood Abiola, 1993. So this is how many attempts, okay? The current APC, this is his first attempt, okay? Kwankwaso made an attempt but stepped down in 2019 for Atiku and the rest. So certain people are coming for the first time, certain people have been coming, certain people this will be their first time, but it may be the first time of other first trials. Peter Obi is on the PDP, this is like technically like a second. The first time he was running mate to Atiku Abubakar, now he's coming in his own. So all around the country, I tell Nigerians that look, don't give up, live well, have vision, understand how to solve society problem, know that we have enough wealth that can transform us. Don't give up on that process. Okay, in a country, 2 institutions matter, especially in a democratic state. The institution that protect you, which is the military, because if you don't have protection, you're vulnerable to anything. So no matter how weak or bad we say or we think our security is, it's still better than no security. Number 2, that body that creates the men that will become your kings, that kingmaker body, that is your Independent Electoral Commission. It is something that we should regard and take care like a sacred institution, because that is that kind of body that will give us the kind of leaders. And like people say, and that's what I want Nigerians to understand, say you get the leaders you deserve. So if Nigerians are not understanding the kind of things that happened in the past and cannot understand the kind of potentials, and they keep on voting bad leaders, I dare to say that we'll keep on getting the kind of sufferings Nigeria will get until people will now begin to understand that leadership matters, the kind of leader you bring.
All right, I'm taking you up from there, okay. Especially talking about the kind of leaders.
Oh, yeah.
There are plethora of candidates right now, running the race. APC, PDP, Labour Party, African Action Congress, the Social Democratic Party. Young, vibrant men, apart from maybe the APC and PDP, they have people who are, in the advanced age. All the other parties practically have younger people, as their candidates. And latest INEC statistics reveals a 76.5% youth population, in the voter register, that's going to happen in this election. Do you think this is going to have any effect? Do you think that the young people may be thinking in the direction of, okay, we have younger people right now, apart from the APC and PDP candidates who, are somewhat advanced in age. Is it going to have any effect? The youth population voting a somewhat youthful candidate amongst the other candidates apart from the PDP and the APC?
Well, that is anticipated. That is what we're expecting, and that is what, after the elections, we're going to do deductions for. Some of us are very concerned post-election than what we're about seeing. A lot of things are not in place, and a lot of things are expected in the future. So for pundits like us or analysts like us, we are more concerned post the election. Anything that's going to happen in this election is going to happen. But one thing is definite, like what you say, and I think we need to extract and bring it out for what it is. The fact that a new set of population are going to start voting.
Okay.
Population known as the youth.
Okay.
The former president letter, he knew why he targeted the youth, right? And say he's writing a letter to the youth.
All right. Thank you. That will be our time. Thank you so much to Chukwu Ifemini, public policy analyst, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bingo.
All right. It's been a wonderful conversation talking about voter apathy in Nigeria. And of course, the days are upon us. Just counting by the fingers, the days are upon us to make a decision. And I hope that this time around, especially the 76.5% population, which are between 18 and 25 in this country, will make the right decision to set the country on a path of growth, on a path of continuous growth, by choosing a credible leader in the coming 2023 election. Till I come away again next time, keep watching our live TV. I am Olubenga George.